major story tonight. The first images from inside Notre Dame Cathedral, what's left of it. And new reporting tonight that the first alarm actually went off a full 23 minutes before the second alarm. But at first, they simply could not find any sign of that fire. The world stopping to watch as centuries of history went up in flames, stunned today, seeing the damage inside, the charred remains, but also hopeful given what's still standing. The roof burned away, giving a direct view of the sky, a pile of burned debris right there on the cathedral floor. But you can see the cross still hanging, the statue of Mary and her crucified son. And tonight, what we did not see 24 hours ago, the heroic efforts of firefighters racing in. ABC's James Longman is in Paris tonight.
Tonight, new images take us inside the 12-hour battle to save Notre Dame. With flames in the background, firefighters shooting powerful jets of water into the 850-year-old cathedral. A legion descending on the scene, a makeshift command post outside. As fire tore across the cathedral, the fire department sending up drones for a bird's-eye view. What they saw, the entire roof engulfed. This is what it looked like before. Its nickname, the Forest, built in the 13th century out of 13,000 trees. Now, tinder. For hours it raged as Paris and the world watched. Gasps as the famous spire fell. Firefighters using water from the river, their hoses trained on the church as day became night. Scaling the scaffolding, the famous gargoyles overhead. Then a robot sent into the cathedral. As embers rained on the altar, streams of water launched deep into the pews. Firefighters staring at the smouldering wreck. A haunting scene, the pile of rubble, smoke still rising from the ashes. But above the altar, the gleaming golden cross still there. This morning, by daylight, a wider view of the destruction inside, but also of what was saved, the irreplaceable art, the glorious stained glass.
Firemen are still working to assess the damage. You can still see them there, working out whether or not the building is safe. And all around us, dark ash.
André Fignon is an official at the cathedral.
There is no roof, no more roof. Part of the roof has disappeared. And there's some water leakages downstairs. And just a nightmare.
Tonight, the timeline of the disaster coming into focus. A fire alarm sounding at 6:20 p.m. Inspectors search the building but find nothing. 23 minutes later, another alarm. That time, they see the flames, but it's too late. That 23-minute gap, now part of an investigation authorities say will be long and complex. And then there is the scar on the city itself. I spoke with Rosina Crossman, an American living in Paris.
There were so many people, and it was so quiet. It was so quiet.
It was almost like there was a vigil.
Yes, it was absolutely a vigil. There was a woman behind me sobbing into her phone. A lot of people were on the phone to their families.
But tonight, the world-famous towers are still standing. So many of Notre Dame's priceless treasures rescued by firefighters, bundled up safely, loaded onto trucks. Among them, some of Christendom's most cherished relics, Jesus' crown of thorns snatched away from the flames. Paris now mourning what was lost, but thankful for what was saved. And cheering for the modern-day guardians of their history.
So many people applauding the firefighters there in Paris. James Longman reporting in from Paris tonight. And James, we know the French President Emmanuel Macron saying he now hopes that Notre Dame can be rebuilt within 5 years. And tonight we took note of that staggering amount of donations already to help rebuild the cathedral.
Yeah, that's right. Truly extraordinary amounts of money are pouring in, David. In just over 24 hours, over $700 million has been pledged for the restoration of this place, including individual donations of $100 and $200 million. This is truly a global call to action that is really being heard.
Just an incredible response. James Longman in Paris tonight. Thank you, James. Back here at home, and with Good Friday and Easter now approaching, so is a major storm system. It hits tomorrow and then moves east right through Good Friday. And a reminder tonight of the danger utility workers face cleaning up after all of this severe weather. In Manchester, New Jersey, these images, workers narrowly escaping when a live wire caught fire there. Just unbelievable. Let's get to Chief Meteorologist Ginger Z tonight, tracking this. A lot of people watching, Ginger, with Good Friday approaching.
David, a major player in the violent storms that are coming our way. is a dry line. That is that dry tan division of air there between the warm and humid air and the extreme dry and cold. What's going to happen here is tomorrow afternoon and evening, anyone from Kansas through Oklahoma to Dallas, Texas, has to be on alert. These storms are going to go so high in the atmosphere, they'll tap into cold air, and very large hail and isolated tornadoes are possible first, then damaging wind all the way from Illinois and Iowa down to Mexico. This thing moves Thursday into Friday toward the East Coast. Jacksonville to New York City will be getting heavy rain, if not some strong storms. David?
All right, watching it straight through Friday with us, Ginger, thank you. We're going to turn next here to newly released police body cam video tonight from Charlotte, North Carolina. Officers responding to calls about an armed man threatening people. They find him crouching between two cars. You can hear them there, repeatedly asking him to drop the gun. Finally, he appears to pull out the weapon, and one of the officers opens fire. But authorities now want to know, was the suspect trying to put that gun down? And here's ABC's Steve Osunsami.
This police body camera video is disturbing, and under new North Carolina law, reporters had to sue to get it released.
Sir, put the gun down. Put it down.
That's the voice of veteran Charlotte police officer Wendy Curl telling 27-year-old Denkerius Franklin to put down his gun outside a Burger King on March 25th. Inside the car is the manager of the restaurant. Police keep telling the obviously troubled young man to drop the gun, but he doesn't. Just as it appears he's going to listen and put the gun on the ground, he reaches for it by the barrel. It is pointed away from the police, but in that split second, the officer opens fire, and he dies.
He got a gun. He got a gun. What is he doing with the gun? Is he pointing at someone?
Minutes earlier, he was behind the counter at the Burger King with the gun. Witnesses say it was an issue with an ex-girlfriend and her new boyfriend.
He's fighting an employee, ma'am.
Law enforcement experts say the shooting appears justified.
You give commands until he drops the gun. It's as simple as that. But when he moves the gun in a menacing fashion, which I believe that was, then it's a different story.
But there's more to Franklin's story. In 2011, he was featured in the local newspaper, how he overcame being born with drugs in his system and was now going to college. He even helped author this book on mentoring black men. This officer remains on administrative leave while this investigation continues. The community reaction to all of this is not positive. There's a sense of outrage, David, that this young man ended up dead because he did as police told him to, which was to put the gun on the ground. David?
Steve Osunsami reporting in live tonight. Steve, thank you. We have been reporting here on the dangers facing customers who get into cars for rides. And tonight, the rideshare nightmare in Bethesda, Maryland. A woman taken home thinking she was in a rideshare. The man then following her in and allegedly robbing her. The driver demanding money, getting into her apartment. Tonight, investigators are now asking for the public's help. And here's ABC's David Curley.
This is the man police are looking for tonight, who they say posed as a rideshare driver. That woman had ordered a car and believed he was the driver.
A car pulls up and I get into a car. He just said, your address is not registering, which should have been alarm bell number 1.
When she got home, the man demanded payment, even though she said she'd paid on the app. He then follows her into her building and then into an elevator, allegedly attempting to steal her purse. Frighteningly similar to another rideshare case when a 21-year-old student, Samantha Josephson, got into what she thought was her Uber ride in South Carolina last month. Her body was found the next day. The man posing as the rideshare driver, charged with kidnapping and murder. Samantha's parents on Good Morning America saying we all need to ask rideshare drivers, what's my name?
It has to be automatic, like putting on a seatbelt. You have to ask what's my name because it can be anyone.
In the Bethesda, Maryland case, police say that suspect got all the way into the woman's apartment early Saturday morning, stealing some property, then fleeing. The parents of the woman who was killed are also asking that all states require front license plates so that riders can compare the license they get on their app with the car that comes to pick them up. David?
Really important to try to do that. All right, David Curley, thank you. Now to the race for 2020 tonight in the fiery town hall. Bernie Sanders on Fox News. And the question about health care in America, it drew a huge response from the audience. And tonight, President Trump tweeting, puzzled why Bernie Sanders was on Fox News. Their response tonight, and here's ABC's Mary Bruce.
In Trump territory, Rust Belt, Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, at a town hall on the president's favorite network, Fox News, Bernie Sanders asked voters to embrace one of his most progressive ideas, Medicare for all.
Do you think it makes sense to spend twice as much per capita as the people of any other nation and be the only country in the world not to guarantee health care for all people?
this audience...
Moderator Brett Baer then took it a step further.
I want to ask the audience a question. If you could raise your hand here. A show of hands of how many people get their insurance from work, private insurance, right now. How many get it from private insurance? Okay, now of those, how many are willing to transition to what the senator says, a government-run system?
Healthcare was the #1 issue in the midterms, and this group of Democrats and Republicans are making it clear it will likely top the list again in 2020. President Trump, who has blasted the idea of Medicare for all, was watching, tweeting, "So weird to watch crazy Bernie on Fox News." Not surprisingly, Brett Baer in the audience was so smiley and nice. Very strange. Baer responding, "Thanks for watching, Mr. President. We cover all sides."
All right, Mary Bruce live in Washington tonight, and Mary, the Bernie Sanders town hall getting the president's attention, but also the White House tonight focused on the Mueller report. We know a redacted version set to be released on Thursday morning. What are you learning tonight? How's the White House now preparing?
Well, David, tonight there is already some discussion within the Trump legal team about releasing their own counter report. Depending on what they see on Thursday, Trump's lawyer, Rudy Giuliani, says they could release their own roughly 35-page version. In the meantime, David, several outlets are already planning to publish the redacted Mueller report as a book. And on Amazon tonight, it's already a bestseller.
Bestseller before it even comes out. All right, Mary Bruce, thank you. Next to your health tonight, a new concern over the measles outbreak in this country. The CDC revealing nearly 100 new cases in just a week. And now one community tonight imposing a $2,000 fine for failing to be immunized. Here's ABC's Ariel Reshef.
Facing the worst measles outbreak in decades, tonight communities across the country taking drastic measures to stop the spread. Rockland County, New York, where they've given out free vaccines, now threatening a $2,000 daily fine for anyone infected or exposed to measles who enters a public area.
Despite our best efforts, this outbreak is not going away. If anything, it is now accelerating, much as we feared.
The CDC reporting 90 new cases of measles in just a week. From Georgia to Oregon, at least 555 people sickened this year across 20 states.
If measles comes into a community with low vaccination coverage, it'll spread.
The virus so contagious, health officials say one man, unaware he had the measles, traveled by car from New York to Michigan, where he unknowingly infected at least 38 people in just 2 weeks.
And public health officials stress these measles outbreaks are primarily impacting unvaccinated children. David, doctors say the vaccine is safe and is 97% effective.
All right, Ariel Reshef has been covering this for some time for us. Thank you. Tonight, authorities are investigating another deadly fall, this time a popular college athlete. They believe she was posing for a group photo right beforehand. And here's ABC's Lindsay Davis.
The family of 20-year-old college student Andrea Norton is in mourning tonight after she took a fatal fall, tumbling off of one of Arkansas's most photographed hiking spots.
It sounds like she just fell off the tip of the cliff.
Norton was on a class trip in Ozarks-St. Francis National Park. Police are investigating initial reports that she was posing for pictures with friends when she lost her footing and fell 100 feet.
Witness accounts indicate that she was jumping from one area of the rock formation to another and just lost her footing and stumbled and fell.
Norton's volleyball teammates displaying her jersey in tribute. This tragedy just days after another college student fell to her death from a bell tower at Fordham University in New York.
Female fell from a high location.
22-year-old Sydney Monfries reportedly posted a Snapchat video showing her sneaking into the tower moments before the accident.
And in Andrea's case, the rock formation was so remote, it took first responders about an hour to get to her. It's just a reminder to us all about how careful you need to be in these dangerous areas. David?
That's awful. All right, Lindsay, thank you. When we come back here tonight, news of that. Some other news tonight, and a driver accused of intentionally trying to run down people in Philadelphia. At least 6 people are hurt tonight. 1 person is in critical condition. The driver has been arrested. Actress Georgia Engel has died, best known for her role as Georgette Franklin on The Mary Tyler Moore Show. She said she was only supposed to appear in 1 episode, but they kept giving her more. Georgia Engel was 70. And the dog found swimming 137 miles from shore. The shivering dog was plucked from the water by workers on an oil rig off Thailand. The dog swimming to the platform there. They wonder if the dog fell from a boat. That dog is doing just fine tonight. Tonight, hundreds gathering outside the Notre Dame Cathedral, praying, lighting candles, remembering. Inside, we have now learned of the rescuers who worked through the night, even with the fire raging, to save the priceless relics, the history, including the crown of thorns. What the gospel says was put on Jesus by Roman soldiers while he was carrying the cross, in the church's possession for nearly 800 years. Paris's mayor tonight saying this man, Jean-Marc Fournier, the Paris Fire Brigade chaplain, was a hero in this, insisting on entering with firefighters to help rescue the crown. Our partners at National Geographic getting rare access to the crown while recently producing The Story of God with Morgan Freeman.
The crown, which is made of reeds, of herbs, of weeds, and they put it in this circle of glass, actually, with gold around there, and then they put this glass thing and they sealed it to preserve it from air, from pollution, from contact.
Tonight, preserved again. It had been custom the first Friday of every month. The crown would be put on public display.
People come there with their sufferings, with their hopes, and they come to this crown, so that's very, very deep, simple in a way, but very, very moving.
Moving, and that crown saved tonight. And throughout Paris and the world, hope it will soon be on display again. I'm David Muir.